It's like a miracle sometimes the way things work. I've just spent the last few minutes trying to access Miro, which is where the Logan's Run project file is located, and it was down. It was giving me issues, gateway down, this or that down. I thought, well, that's kind of stinks. That's kind of the nature of internet apps, right? They're wonderful, but they're web based, so you can't get to the server, you can't get on. Just as I was about to go live, I refreshed Miro one last time, and lo and behold, it's back. I wouldn't have let it stop us. Nothing can stop us here in the Logan's Run project. Well, yes, some things could stop us. I don't want to think about such, but this certainly would not have. But now that I have Miro up, we can go to it. Dave Edwards, Logan 5 reporting in. Awesome. Glad to have you. Glad to have everybody. Let me, I don't have any particular programming notes, so I just want to keep going. Keep going with the way we're rolling in there. Let me get Miro up. Oh, there's a plane going overhead. There we go. So, oops, maybe I zoomed in too far. Here's our lovely hex map that we worked on. And if we recall from where we did in the last episode, we worked on the hex map. And as I believe as nothing mentioned in a comment in the channel, how what I started with and what I ended up, almost everything probably got changed in some way. And that's usually how I work. It's an iterative process. You kind of find stuff that looks right, seems to match what you're going for, and then kind of stick with it. For me, the hardest part is letting go, is not continually going in there and tweaking something as I have a new idea. I think I'm pretty satisfied. Maybe the one thing I might tweak is down here, this little grasslands, maybe put some other, if I'm thinking about, I guess we have hills here. I was thinking I could have some other hills here, which would kind of continue this idea of this area being somewhat of a valley, or at least a reason why maybe it's isolated. But that's, whatever. We can come back to it later, or we can just leave it as grasslands, since it's at the very edge of our map anyway. Dave Edwards says it is awesome, bro. Thanks. I mean, it's I really take no credit for it. I feel like anybody could make these things. I just got to have a little bit of inspiration, and this is why I actually like to open up something like Worldographer and just let it randomize some territory. Then all you have to do is clean it up. If you find odd things like a volcano next to something else that doesn't make sense. Ain't no nothing says not letting things be done also a problem mine. Yeah, it's a big problem. I think for a lot of people. That's what I think prevents a lot of projects from getting finished, is it's hard to finish. It's hard to get it finished. My wife sneezed in the background. I don't know if you heard that or not. Yeah, it's hard to finish things at times. Know when to stop. Don't let the good be the don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? For our purposes, I think this is great. Dave Edwards says, is this a dilapidated DC? Can players reach the Lincoln Memorial? So I'm not going with the you could definitely make this a US, America, whatever, North America. I'm not. So this map should probably have no resemblance to anything in the current or future United States. Really, the main things that I wanted out of this map was, so these three, I don't know, I just used Worldographer symbols that seem to fit. 3 dots here represent just multiple domes. This is kind of where the domes are. It's in this, I believe the symbol is basically not very, I don't remember the exact word for it, but it's grasslands, but they're not good quality, low quality grasslands, surrounded by sort of dead woods and grasslands, and then more sort of dead woods, and then kind of dead wooded hills. And then here we have a kind of forested wetlands, then more just kind of swamp, marsh, grasslands. We have this river running through it. ruins here. Let's see. Smaller ruins. These are city ruins. So settlement ruins or smaller settlement ruins, larger settlement ruins, forest and hills, and this is all on, I guess, to the west, and to the east. More of the sort of Deadlands area, hills, smaller settlement, ruins, and then using the TPs. When I'm not necessarily, it's not what I'm going for, really, but just to represent what we would call survivor, outsider settlements along this river, and then we have some more just hills and grasslands, and then forest. Dave Edwards said, looks like hexographer. It is hexographer, yeah. Hexographer 2, worldographer. Yep, that is correct. Absolutely on the nose. Yeah, I like it. It can be a little bit fiddly. It's got so much power to it, but I feel like I don't even know really how to harness a lot of stuff it can do. It's got a lot, but I think some of it gets a little bit fiddly. But I appreciate it. I appreciate what it's doing. So that's kind of the outlay of the map. In the end of the session we just did, or I should say on Monday. So these are poor grasses, and we went through and used the tables, which I'm about to go back to now, for giving some ideas about what's in this region, what kind of stuff is in this region. The stuff we came up with is it's unusually dangerous in several ways. It has an unusual resource. A usurper and their supporters fled here, which is awesome because, yeah, we have the domes right here that we know people fled to, and the dice just kind of confirm that, which is kind of neat. It's unpopulated outside of the domes. It has elemental emanations, and it's riddled with caves and delvings. So lots of great stuff that actually kind of fits the character that we're going for anyway. We got some. So what I thought I would do now for this is just to keep going. I really want to do one for each one of the major regional or I don't know how to say habitat types. So I want to do one for the Deadwoods, one for these hills, one for these hills over here. So essentially we'll have all these different, if this is our local-ish level or kind of kingdom level, each one of these will have these regions, and then we can name them later. But when we're just thinking about naming, we can think about, let's say for this grasslands area, we've got a lot of ideas for naming because it's once we figure out kind of what the elemental emanations are and what the resource is, it'll give us ideas of what to name. And we can even think about different, I always like to have kind of, if I have time and effort, time and space available, multiple names. Inside the dome, they probably just call it the wasteland or something else. They never go out there, or they haven't until now. So probably they're not going to really have much of a name for it. But maybe the survivors, and if anything survives in these ruins or anything else, what might they call it? Does anything come here to try to get that resource out? Right, all kinds of stuff we can think of. Frederick Ork says, "Fiddly diddly, it's working." That's right, it is working. That's the most important thing. But right now I'm in Miro, and as I said, to start all this off, I'm glad Miro decided to come online because I was afraid it wouldn't be there. So I'm just going to take another sticky note. That's fine. Let's put it up here. Oh, you know what? Let me just go to. I just want to get the name of that. What kind of? What are we calling that? Let's see. Dead Forest. Okay. So officially, now I've got somebody with a wheel. Not a wheel, a one of those leaf blowers outside my window. So apologies if that's coming through the chat. I think a lot of the stuff, you guys don't hear it, but I hear it, and it just drives me batty. But can't do anything about that. I mean, I could scream at folks, but not going to make a difference. Okay, so now we're in this dead forest area, and I'm going to... I keep forgetting to get dice. All right, so we've got... I'm using the one roll terrain feature details. Frederick Ork says noise canceling is amazing tech. Yeah, and I am running my audio through some noise cancellation, which helps for you guys doesn't help for me. I suppose I could get some noise canceling headphones, just put them on my own head for that. But yeah, it is a good feature. If you want to follow along, because I'm not sharing the screen at the moment, if you have Worlds Without Number, you want to go to the page, I'm going to be rolling down all the tables on the single page. It's 123, page 123 in the geography section. One roll terrain features. This is what I went through before for the poor grasses. Dave Edwards said mild to dangerous radiation. Yeah, something like that. Mild to dangerous radiation causing the dying forest. Yeah, I imagine that's what it could be. Now, we haven't determined yet if we're running straight sci-fi, in which case we could say, or sci-fantasy, which we might say, yeah, this is radiation of some sort, or it could be some magical effect. Kind of leaving it open-ended. David also says, any mutated animals or cattle. We haven't gotten there yet. We haven't gotten to specific encounters, or we're still kind of at a high level. Part of this is rolling through the workflow that Worlds Without Number suggests in their tools. So I'm not going to go super, we're going to be drilling down kind of as the system, as Worlds Without Number guides us to drill down. So we're going to stay kind of upper level for a minute, but let me just open up, since I've got a dice bot in Discord, I'm just going to open up Discord. And I need to roll. First, I'm going to roll for, hey, how dangerous is this? Roll 1d6. Dice Maiden gave me a 4. Oh, all right, so another place. Frederick Gore says, sheep with fangs. Maybe. Dave Edwards says, gotcha, just excited. Yeah, I'm glad. Hey, excitement is good. I'm excited too. All right, so first thing we know, we're saying about this dead forest is it is like the grasses. I rolled the same thing. Unusually dangerous in several ways. All right, so this too is something dangerous. I don't know how to get it to shrink more, but all right. I guess it'll shrink in its own time. So it is dangerous. But we don't know how yet. Let's see. The next thing we're rolling for is what use is the features? This is kind of right thinking about, well, in terms of does it have some kind of value, or what is the value? This is a D8. All right. Got an 8. Oh, a mighty working, capital W, is still functioning there. So I believe working is some hit the side. Yeah, it's got some kind of auto thing, which I kind of like. So if I stretch the... So sorry, Dave Edwards says hit the size button to adjust. It kind of has an auto adjustment that I like, but it's not letting me size it out. I'll fix it later. Yeah, I wanted to pull the dots out to stretch it a bit, but Frederick Work says maybe some old war drones are still defending the area. Could be, but we got it working. We got some old tech, and I'll use like Magitech or some kind of weird, funky language. All right, I'll just keep their lingo for right now. A mighty working is still functioning there. Just I can't pull you out more. All right, I guess I'll have to go that. We'll do that. Okay. That's the second one. Now, the next we got to roll on is what kind of event last happened there. This is a D10 roll. And Dice Maiden has given me an 8. Ooh, that's nice. So we get some grim and terrible thing was awoken. Oh, now we're cooking. We are cooking now, folks. Some grim and terrible thing was awoken. Grim and terrible thing was awoken. Yes, sir. This is starting to shape up. Next, we've got how populated is the feature. This will be a curious one. So I would say it's kind of not very populated, but if it is populated, You can try to make sense of what is there, and I got a 1. Oh, look at that. Makes perfect sense. Almost unpopulated. So, as kind of it should be, it's practically unpopulated, which makes sense. Everything so far is good. I mean, even if it was, there's nothing really that couldn't be good, but I think we're getting interesting results given the context. Okay, next is what antagonists are common there. This is a D12. Dice Maiden, you abandoned me when I need you most. Oh, I forgot. Never mind. It's my fault, Dice Maiden. My fault. Let's see. Okay, so we have what antagonists are common. So the people that are there are angry cultists of a local faith, which also could make a lot of sense given everything that's happening. Angry cultists of a local faith. So we got a lot of stuff here. And then finally, we need a cork, which is a D20. 13. It was a natural preserve of a megastructure. A lot of good food for thought with that one, too. All right. So this dead forest, which rings most of the area, some kind of natural preserve of a megastructure. It could even be that the domes could be the megastructure. Frederick Ork says Dice Main works pretty good, but needs an update to the new commands. Yeah, I mean, for my purposes, playing OSR, I generally am only using, I think, 2-3 kinds of rolls, like 1d6, 1d20, 3d6. I guess So for my purposes, it works fine. I like it. It was just very simple. I haven't checked out to see what other stuff it can do, but yeah, it's nice. It is nice. For my purposes, it is excellent. But I think if I was playing stuff that was maybe further afield, I needed more variety, then I might need to look elsewhere or just delve into it itself. But so far, so good. All right, so there we have the. I'll just recap that. We've got unusually dangerous in several ways. A mighty working is still functioning there. Something grim and terrible was awoken. It's practically unpopulated, but what it is populated by are angry cultists of a local faith, and it was a natural preserve of a megastructure. And like I said, the megastructure fits really well because the megastructure that it could be part of is the workings, something related to the domes. And depending on, I don't want to go too far, but just as far as just in a setting, if we wanted to have, what if you were technicians working for the domes and you had this thing that you had to go somehow get over here to that megastructure to fix something? Dave Edwards says, who is the antagonist cultists who are led by an angry hot witch PSI powers and her two-tailed lion of the woods who wants to enslave men who what's caught? Ooh, there's a mouthful in there. I mean, maybe, I would probably build them thematically, right? So not to get too far into it right now, but I imagine the cultists, we could look at it either as if we wanted to. So, in the movie Logan's Run, none of the runners got out of the domes. They were all captured and frozen by Box. One option could be that these angry cultists of a local faith are the sanctuary cultists, but they came out here and they didn't make it past these deadlands and they became just crazy. They went crazy, whatever. They just became a very angry people. Maybe they found themselves trapped there. They found some way to survive and they're just annoyed, pissed off at everybody. That could be one thing. It could be some type of survivors that came out here and are in there. It could be something else. There's a lot there's a lot that we could that we could channel in there. Yeah, Aslan. What happened to Aslan? Yeah, no Aslan here. I'm not a big fan of the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, generally speaking. But yeah, I can't say that Aslan was somebody who resonated with me. All right, so that's the Deadlands. We also have, let's see, they're called Hills Dead Forest. So we have dead forested hills. Add another sticky note here. Dead forested hills. We're just going to keep repeating this process. Dave Edwards says atomic rocket worshipping cult. Could be. I mean, when you get into what the survivors could be, there could be all kinds of different people out there, right? The people who are still in the ruins, the people who embraced the whatever the catastrophe was, or were just changed by it, or created by it in some way. There's a lot of directions we could go. Lots of good stuff here. All right, so back to the beginning now. How dangerous are these dead forested hills? So far, things are pretty darn dangerous. Let's see if that trend continues. It's a D6. I rolled a 3. Got some site-specific flavors of peril. Okay. Site-specific flavors of peril. Site-specific flavors of peril. All right, we got that. I just want to stretch that, but it doesn't want to let me stretch. Dave Edwards says I would give it a kind of a 50s atomic era flavor. Yeah, absolutely. Or like Dune, House Atomics. Frederick Gork says, yeah, just some cannibals who eat fresh, tender meat that escapes the domes every so often. Yeah, it could be something, absolutely. Some people who are, they're scavenger types, right? They just sit and wait, assuming Box didn't get everybody, they just sit waiting for whatever happens to break out, and then they just consume it. All right, so what value might there be in these hills? This is a D8. Just roll again. 1D8. Dice Maiden gives me a 6. A major trade route goes through it. That's an interesting wrinkle, too. These are the dead forested hills. The one thing I don't want to say I did on purpose, but notice that we've got, or maybe, I didn't. I was thinking, but we've got, I probably should do is something I probably failed to do. So we'll have to amend this. We'll put a survivor, some kind of survivor town or settlement out here. And that way that gives us a reason that there could be a trade route snaking somewhere through those hills. So let me make a note. Let's make a note to do that. Let's see, add maybe I'll call it outsider. Add an outsider settlement to west side of map. All right, there we go. Frederick Gork says the bots dump trash and bodies outside, and the cannibals go through it. That's another good thing. I mean, yeah, the movie has those sort of disintegration spray, but yeah, we can totally just ditch that in favor of something like maybe there's some kind of waste tube, and they don't the people living in the domes don't know and don't care where that waste tube goes, but yeah, it just spits things outside, and then things out there go through the trash. There could be all kinds of, and maybe that's why this is all poor grasslands, because all kinds of trash been dumped, and there's all kinds of pits. Because we already have from the poor grasses, we know that's riddled with caves and delvings. What if that stuff is all these just kind of giant industrial midden pits and other things for waste? We got a lot of good stuff ticking here. Okay, so we have the major trade route. That was, what use is it? All right, what kind of event last happened here? What do we got? Talk to me, Dice Maiden. What do we got here? A usurper and supporters fled to it. All right, so we got more usurper and supporters fleeing. More usurpers and supporters fleeing to it. All right. Now I could change that. I'm gonna keep with it right now. All right, we can always go through and amend these rolled again, but right now I'm just gonna keep it. There's multiple things it could be. It could be that the same usurper, there were some supporters that went one way versus another. We can figure out how that works. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm coming up against. Hold on a minute. I think I might need to just move this. Let me move this down here. Nope, that didn't let me increase it, really? Okay. You didn't have to get that small. There we go. All right. Let's see. Dave Edwards says, I like that reason. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I do what I can, and I can what I do. Okay, so that was, which one of the tables was that? That was, what kind of event last happened here? Now we need, how populated is it? Dice Man, give me a number between 1 and 4, please. 1, still almost unpopulated. So we keep getting unpopulated, which actually fits fits things quite well. Practically unpopulated. Then we need, what are the common antagonists? Oops, roll 1d12. I got a 6. More elemental emanations. So we got elemental emanations, which actually I kind of like, because it kind of lets us build up things, right? So if they experience the elemental emanations in those poor grasses, which are the first things that they'll encounter, then we can kind of riff on that in this other area. And how are they similar to what was in those grasses? How might they be a little bit different than what was in those grasses? You can even think about, well, why doesn't the forest suffer through that? Maybe there's something about the forest that works, but that in the hills doesn't. And then I believe the last one, let's give it a quirk. D20. 11. A significant part is subterranean. So we got some subterranean bits. All right. Subterranean. Oh, significant subterranean features. All right. So just to recap what we have for the dead forested hills, it's got some site-specific flavors of peril. It's got a major trade route that goes through it. More usurper supporters fled there. It's also practically unpopulated. It has those elemental emanations, and it has significant subterranean features. I'm going to keep moving my way east for the moment. Dave Edwards says, I guess it has a Forbidden Zone flavor, which is theme-based and demands resource management. Are you going to create a D4 or D6 random hostile tables list? I'm not sure what would die. I go back and forth with dice to use. Sometimes I like to use something with that can give me somewhat of a curve, or sometimes just like using multiple tables. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm not sure. We will cross that particular chasm when we get to it. But yeah, it definitely has the forbidden zone, which is good. And you could see how the original builders might have wanted to have kind of a forbidden zone, because the domes, one of the things is you want the domes to be essentially left alone. So the more that you could make it seem perilous to those outside, the better. If they were thinking that some things are going to survive and we don't want those things to get in, how could we prevent them? Make the surroundings unfriendly. And of course, then once the catastrophe hits, maybe they were great at anticipating all these things. Maybe they were terrible. Maybe just things that the domes stayed okay. They put the domes in a great spot, but terrain changed around them to put them in a bad spot. Right? There's a number of different ways we could think about it. The possibilities are endless, I tell you, endless. Now we're on to the hills. These are kind of normal hills, i.e., they're not deadlands, they're not dead forest. Just your regular old, at this moment, average hills. But let's see how average they are. We're back to figuring out the danger level. Got a 6. Oh, all right. A death zone for all but the strongest. Oh my. All right. There you go. These hills are not to be trifled with, which kind of makes that trade route really good. So, can I just say again how sometimes the dice and you're using these random tables and they just give you great stuff. So I have dead forested hills that abut normal hills. Maybe we call them rocky hills. The dead forested hills, we rolled up randomly, a trade route goes through it. Okay. Now, when I'm looking at the map, the trade route has to pass these hills that we have now, and these hills we just established are a death zone. But we also got another feature of the dead forested hills that is significant. It has significant subterranean features. So potentially, we've got a tunnel that is part of that trade zone that perhaps leads underneath the really nasty, nasty hills area, which is great if you can find it. If you can get to it, it's great. It gives us a real element to play with. It's just but it's just these dice just kind of working together. I don't know, just fate. The fates combining, which is what I love about these kind of dice based things. I might not have thought of that myself, probably wouldn't have. But now, just from rolling dice and just listing these things out and just seeing them next to each other, sure, it's all random, but we can already see how we can make connections and make these things work. So I already got ideas that, yeah, there's some kind of tunnel that goes under these really deadly hills leading to the other side. If you're an enterprising party, this means that even if you're a low level, you could potentially get outside the hills, but you have to find that path. And how might you find that? You might find the trade route if it's hidden. Maybe you need to find out from whatever locals there are how they're getting from one side to the other. All these different things, but kind of comes together, and it's just based on the dice, which I always get a kick out of when they happen. Or we make them happen with our mind, but we get the raw materials from these kinds of interactions between randomish things. All right, so what use is the feature? What kind of utility? What's worth looking for in these hills? Let's got another working. All right, so we got another working. And I'll probably have to go back into the map to add these in. So I want to probably put on a perk. It's got a what were we calling it? A mighty working and still functioning there. Still functioning, mighty working. So we got another piece of Magitech or something is functional in the hills. They've ever says so. We are still in search for a sanctuary. I guess there's no such thing as sanctuary, not outside these domes. Well, true, but I think ultimately, right, in the movie it would have been a settlement area. In the movie, if we're using the movie model, they made it out. They probably came somewhere out here, got to this major city settlement. or they could have gotten here or here because they didn't actually find any survivors, right? They just got to ruins. Presumably they'll get nicer. I think if the dice, one thing is if the dice roll and we just get massively deadly, we could vary it up, right? Because we got a lot of hexes here to deal with. So what I would probably do, for example, with these hills is wherever I decide to put the working, wherever we decide, here's where the working is, they'll probably get a little bit less deadly the further out we go. It's a whole region, but we can definitely have variances. But yeah, this is I mean, the real thing for Sanctuary working now is that you don't have to die when you turn 30 or 33 or whatever it is, right? That's the kind of big thing is you're getting Sanctuary for the fact that these folks are going to kill you. Now, something outside of there might just kill you anyway, but at least you have your full life your life is in your own hands, I guess. All right, so what last happened in these hills? Major nest of bandits or raiders formed. So we have a major nest of bandits or raiders. So yeah, definitely nest of bandits. And then we get some fascinating stuff because if there's a tunnel that goes through here, through the hills, someone may have to hold it against those raiders. Maybe not everybody knows the tunnel, so they have to try to go over it, and then you've got these bandits, raiders there. Certainly a group of dangerous survivors, which probably means that we're going to have to put some kind of settlement out there, but one that's kind of where might these bandits or raiders be headquartered out of? If we want to put a permanent spot, they might just be totally nomadic. All right, they might not have a base. We'll have to figure that out. Figure that out when we get there. How populated is the feature? I don't know. How populated is the feature? Average or more population density. All right, so this one, there's actually a lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff. Okay. Next, we've got the antagonist. We know about raiders, but there's something else. Or maybe what about these raiders are they? Oh my gosh. So we have raiders because said there was a nest of raiders was discovered, and I literally rolled the result that is raiders and bandits driven into the area. So yeah, that is hilarious. The dice speak sometimes to each other. I don't know how. It's there's raiders, bandits driven here. And then finally, what be thy quirk, O hills of yore? 1d20. I want something. They're all good, but let's see what we get here. 15 gives us magic is somehow warped in its area. Oh, interesting. Interesting. And magic is warped here. All right, this is a doozy of a spot. All right, so let's recap this one. Now we have these hills, a death zone for all but the strongest. So it's deadly. It has a still functioning mighty working. Some ancient magic, magitech, technology, whatever. We'll figure that out later. But there's something still there that's working. There's a major nest of bandits / raiders, however you want to consider them. It's actually got a fair amount of people here, probably these raiders and bandits who were driven from where, from what, we don't know yet, but magic is warped here, which makes it an interesting spot for raiders to hang out. And we can decide later how the magic is warped and what might be warping it, etc., etc. The next area we've got is... Oops. Still not going to let me stretch that out. Why won't you let me stretch it out? No. Let me increase the size. All right. I'm not going to fight with you on your sticky notes there, Mira. We're just going to move on. So then we have these grassy, what are they, kind of grassy hills? What are we calling that? Oh, I closed Worldographer. It's called Grassy Hills. Just go down here. We got grassy, or I don't know, grasslands and hills. Something like that. Something like that. What are we thinking so far? Anybody got some any comments? Anything? I think we're getting a lot of good material. I'm curious to how these how this part's going to fit together. Okay, so first the danger level. So far we've gotten everything's pretty darn dangerous. And I got Death Zone again. Ooh boy, yeah, the sanctuary is tough place, tough. And look, if we like I said, if it gets to be too much, all right, we can go through to bend it. These are all supposed to be tools we're using. If the tools override our common sense or the demands what we need to do for the setting, right? I'm not averse to coming back here and scratching that off and putting, oh yeah, it's easier. But we'll see. First, I think it's good to let's get the full picture that we get through this, and then we can go back and amend it, or we can kind of zone things up because we're looking at a regional level. So overall, the region might be that way, but that doesn't mean there aren't pockets of places that are a lot less outliers that are super safe, relatively speaking, and then some places that are even deadlier than the deadly. Nothing says the system is winning me over. I still think it's most useful for filling in places you don't already have ideas for. Yes. Right. Well, I mean, and that's kind of the point here, right? Is we have a basic idea of, on a very broad level for the setting, the kind of things for this area, but we don't have anything in particular in mind. In the movie, they just kind of montage through a bunch of different terrains and they go swimming and then they end up at the ruins. So they don't, it's the basis for our inspiration doesn't give a ton of detail. And I think just as a game, I think everyone likes, at least I do, in these kind of settings where you have a variety of terrain. You're not just forest as far as the eyes can see. So you feel that movement, you feel that kind of like I think of it Conan, the original Conan the Barbarian movie, where and then the steps, and then they're running and they're going through the woods and they're running through the plains and they're running right there. Running who knows how far across the world, but you just get to touch some different areas. And of course, you could expand this little map as much as you want. But yeah, it's giving us some good fodder. But of course, with everything, we will be the final arbiters of what belongs and what doesn't belong. But until we get there, if we don't have it already, we can use these things. And when we get it, when we come back to this and say, hey, that's too much deadly and there's not enough easy bits, we can either make exceptions on the map or break up some of these regions as we see fit, or we just scratch this out and put something else there. Okay, so now we want to get the value of these grasslands. What kind of value are we getting? What is the resource here? Controlling it has military significance. All right, so I'm just going to put military significance. That's interesting. I mean, we can already see that. So here's another one, right, where the dice kind of give us something that makes sense. We have ruins. This rim, these grassland hills encompass. Here we have an actual settlement that's on the hills, and we have ruins on the hills, and there's a settlement that's kind of right on the outside. So as far as if you're looking at it from these settlements perspective, to the west, it's really full of danger. This hills and these kind of grassy hills are their barrier. So from that standpoint, it makes total sense that it has military significance to them because they want to keep their raiders in those hills. There's elemental madness over on the other side of those hills and deadlands and all this other yuck. So you got to keep your borders strong, and perhaps this is what they make their borders, which is why they're not playing around, right? If you wander in there, you better be ready to make peace or talk or somehow make it plain that you're not a threat, because they're gonna be serious as a heart attack. Dave Edwards says, idea, how about a place field where the crystals protrude out of the ground that eventually end up in the hands of the Doan population? Could be. I mean, there could be lots of things. We have significant subterranean features in those dead forested hills. We could have crystals in there. Yeah, we can. There's a lot of places if we want to put something like that. We probably want to figure out what the crystals do, what use are they. Oh, and Dave Edwards says perhaps they power up these dilapidated structures / plants on the surface. I don't know. Yeah, we could think about what kind of power sources they use. Are we going for kind of what we consider sort of modern, tech, something like thermal power or solar or wind or some combination, or nuclear fission, nuclear fusion? Is it something more magic oriented, something, or something even like, I don't know, I would think of kind of techno magic like energon cubes, right? Maybe there's energon crystals, maybe crystals capture some kind of weird energy. We've established as part of the poor grasses that there are unusual resources here. Those crystals could be a resource for what we don't know. So yeah, it could totally. We got so much. We're gathering up so much material to use. It's silly, a silly amount of material, and I mean that in the best possible way. So we got that. Now, what is the last event that happened in these grassland hills? It's a D10. 2, a mad prophet tried to start a faith here. Ooh, that's good. Another reason why the locals might be on guard. And maybe that mad prophet's followers got pushed out into the dead forested hills. So look at that. See, again, the dice, they talk to each other somehow. I don't even know this isn't even real dice. It's dice made. Dice made doesn't know what I'm doing. And yet I've got a mad prophet in one area, and then I have someplace that a usurper and supporters fled to. Could that mad prophet be that usurper? Maybe. We don't know. But look at that. How does this happen? I don't know. But it's great. It's great. How populated is the feature? How many people are here? How many people are here amongst us? A rush of people. Oh, there's a lot. So it could be that these are military installation, perhaps. We put military in. I could spell military. There we go. Got a heavily populated area. It could be because they really keep, and looking. And like I said, I can go back into Worldographer and I can add watchtowers. Some other idea that maybe there's a lot of fortifications and things as they've built up a wall, or if not a literal wall, then perhaps a figurative wall of observation and posts, so that they could make sure that nothing is coming east. They want to keep whatever's west out. It makes perfect sense. What are the antagonists? Who is against us here in the grassy hills? More elemental emanations. Maybe they get some echoes of these same elemental emanations. Is becoming thematic, which we can work with. I minimize you. I want to do that. There's this. Can I do that? Nope. I said no, Miro. All right. And then I think the last one, maybe for this, is that quirk. Time in space sometimes slip. Oh, that's gonna be some. That's gonna have some possibilities, folks. That's got some interesting elements in there. There we have grasslands, and hills zone. How we doing on time? Time waits for no man. All right, 10-ish minutes left. I think we got time to kind of feel like I'm going around the horn, so let's just do the grasslands. These grasslands out here. Or they're kind of grazing lands. I'm calling them grasslands. They call them grazing lands. But I don't want to predetermine what they're being used for. But I think that for me, the key component that they're driving at with grazing lands is that it's healthy. If we think about where the domes are, it's poor. The regular grasslands, I think, are kind of medium. These are sort of more lush, able to support stuff. Dave Edwards says, maybe society of thieving, ferocious children like the Cubs stationed somewhere on the surface. Dilemma, kill the children? Yeah, that's pretty dark. So the Cubs, I don't know how they would, like, I don't know that people stay Cubs forever, right? Because they're only Cubs kind of until they're teens, in which case I guess they seem to either grow out of it or they get killed. But yeah, we could totally have a thing where instead of putting the Cubs in the cathedral, they just boot them out entirely. Thinking that's just killing them, and yet they're there. But we're getting kind of far away from the domes, though. So if some Cubs made it on here, they'd probably, new Cubs probably wouldn't have an easy way of getting there unless there was some kind of underground railroad for Cubs. Might be tough. Bob Mostel. Hey, Bob Mostel. Don't trust anyone under 30. Very true. Plus, they're all, in the domes. They don't even get over 30. If you find somebody over 30 in the domes, something's gone horribly wrong. Okay, so how dangerous? All right, so what are the chances that we get another super dangerous? Keep in mind, it's a D6 roll, and maybe we're seeing one limitation of the system or one quirk. We're rolling how dangerous the place is. We've got 6 options. The first option is safer than usual. The second option is one notable kind of danger. Then it goes site-specific dangers, unusually dangerous, quickly kill the unprepared, and death zone. So of the 6 options, only one is like, it's safe. Safe-ish, safer than usual. After that, it's just varying amounts of danger. So the odds are going to be that we're going to get something at least somewhat dangerous. And that might be something where we'd want to rethink this. We want to have some safer areas. Maybe we don't want to rely on that table. We might just want to say, you know what, this is a safe spot. Hold on, Dice Maiden. I keep typoing in my Dice Maiden commands. All right, so it's got some site-specific flavors of peril. That's the medium one, the one right in the middle. Right in the middle. So it's not hyper deadly, but it's got some site-specific perils. Maybe you could use some motif to indicate the area they're moving in is dangerous. Absolutely. Didn't I do a video about motifs? I believe I did. But yes, I think, and we have some ideas for that. And I like the way that, one of the things you can look at when you're rolling this stuff is you're getting the same results over and over again. You might look at that as a weakness. Oh, I've gotten elemental emanations 4 times now, or 3 times, I think. Let's see. We got it once for the poor grasses. Yeah, 3 times. You think that's a weakness. Why am I getting the same results? But it really could be seen as, no, what you're doing then is you're able to build it up. Maybe the emanations in certain areas, say outside the domes, are weaker. And that way your players, you can start to build up that context of, why do these emanations happen? When do they happen? What does the world feel like when they're happening? Once they experience it there and they start experiencing variations on it, suddenly they have that context already. They've built it up. So then they end up in the other hills and they start feeling the emanations. They're a little bit different, but they're going to hopefully have a better idea of what to expect because they've already been introduced to it. You can keep building up that context, and then you find it again. So yes, and all that is kind of like having these motifs, these characteristics, and this is what we're doing because this is all for regions, right? I'm not doing each individual hex on the hex map. I'm looking at regionally. These are all the regional things, and then we can look at when we start drilling down is what do they mean when we get into what locations might look like when we zoom into that ground level view and we're looking at these grasslands or we're looking at the hills and they have emanations and they've got this or that. How does that all translate into the things that we're actually telling the party, right? How does that come down to the narrative, to the fiction? But right now we're zoomed up. This is all regional level. I'm looking at how's this forest as a whole? What are the things that unite this whole forest? What are the things that unite all these grasslands? And then, we'll get into more detail when we drill down. But Moss Law says the dice never lie, or is that the lice never die? I forget. Yeah, lice. Ugh. I've been lucky my daughter, now in second grade, has really not had lice issues yet, but I expect they're coming. So we got some site-specific perils. Okay, let's see what resource, what use is this? What we got here? What's this place good for? Again, controlling it has military significance. All right. I'm just going to put has. I mean, there is a settlement in the grasslands right down here. And they're kind of on the border area this way. So, yeah, I would imagine that it does have military significance. That makes sense. There's a settlement there that would in itself give it military significance. And then let's go back. What's after that? What kind of event last happened here? Some grim and terrible thing was awoken. All right, so there's something nasty. Something nasty's here. Remember, but you notice too, it is giving in the past tense, right? So we could decide that thing is still here. Perhaps that thing is gone. Perhaps somehow the survivors that are here, the outsiders. I mean, I know they don't consider themselves outsiders, but at least from the dome's perspective, outsiders here protect themselves from something that's roaming the rest of these grasslands. And that would probably also make sense as a site-specific peril. How populated? So, how populated is this place? Very few settlers or workers. So it's sparsely. We'll call that sparsely populated. That doesn't mean that the settlement itself can't have a fair amount of people, right? We're talking about over this entire region here, and then probably also up here. So it could be that just in this whole southern southeastern corner, outside of this population center, it's pretty darn empty of people. Or just this one hex with the center in it is just, it's the exception. Here it's very populated, and then these follow the rule. See what's going on in the chat. Dave Edwards said subbed and liked. Great. I didn't know you weren't subbed before. You weren't subbed before, Dave Edwards? Well, what took you so long? But glad you're here. Bob Mosel says an AI-powered drone. Yeah, could be. Could be. Okay, so now what kind of antagonists have we got? What have we got? Who is wandering through here? We got 11. Remnants of a furious native population. Well, that makes perfect sense because we have a settlement right there. So again, the dice speak truth. Remnants of a native population. Yep. Where did you stop? There you go. Let's quit. Of course, the dice speak the truth, because what have we got there? We have an actual settlement. So, keeps working for us. Okay, and then we've got an optional quirk. What's the quirk? Fix. It subtly changes those who live there. Ooh, I like that one. I mean, I like them all, but all right. So mutants, anybody? Awesome. All right. So we did some good work in here, folks. We are really starting to get this mapped out. So we've got the poor grasses now. We did that in episode 4. And here we did the dead forest. We did the dead forest hills. We did the normal hills. We did the grasslands and hills, and we did the grasslands. So then this will probably be part of that grasslands kind of feature. Then we've got some more forest and so foresty hills, and then we have to go west and see what's in here. But I think we got a lot of great material. I am going to take a snapshot of this. So you'll notice it's going to be a little bit less clean. I've got actually, hold on, can I move? Yeah, I can move you out of the way. Let's move you over there. Maybe here. So I can get just this stuff. So on the free version, it doesn't give me a lot of abilities for export, as you can see, but I will post this in the YouTube channel community tab. So folks can feel free to go in there and check it out. I will probably, I'll do it on, I was going to say, well, I'll go and create the update the map with a couple things, but no, I'll just do that on the stream. But thanks everybody for hanging out. If you like this, giving it a thumbs up helps me out a lot. And hey, subscribe. Dave, glad you subscribed. Thanks for coming. If you see this later on, listen to it, watch it, wherever. Subscriptions help me out a lot, and you just get notified when I do stuff like this. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. If you're in here now, night, whatever, wherever you are in the world. If you're watching or listening to this later, have a great whenever you're watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody. Talk to you later.